podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Hello, and on tonight's wrap, we pick through the bones of the defeat against Argentina and say why it isn't all doom and gloom. We also preview Japan coming to the Principality and pick, well, I say we pick a team, but frankly, we just say same again. Hope you all enjoy. Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Wrap. I'm Harley, as ever, and I'm joined with a full house this time. Dan has recovered from his man flu, so it's Dan, Nick, and Hattie. How are we all doing, folks?
Good evening.
Good.
Yeah, not too bad, thank you.
Yeah, all good.
Excellent. So in a week where Wales lost a game where we were all expecting them to lose, how are we all feeling?
Mixed.
Yeah.
I'm mixed. I thought there were some, which I'm sure we'll go into far more detail, some positives, but some things which we need to address and maybe can be improved in the next few games. We'll see.
My
absolutely.
opinion on the whole thing, and having seen rugby social media in the last 24 hours, is it's really easy to be negative in these situations. So let's be positive, people. Come on.
Yeah, I think overall, and I think I said to Harley yesterday, that I came out of that match actually not probably like the least depressed or least upset that I've been from a Wales loss in a really long time. There was nothing that I was like, oh, that was a shambles, that was, worrying, that was whatever. Which I know people on social media are not happy that certain people feel like that, but
I've got a new name for people on social media. I call them the social media cants. Cants being the Welsh word for 100, but it's very close to a word which is very used actually as a term of endearment in Carnarvon. You think you can work out what it is, and so they say things. They say things like "yawn can't," but they don't say "can't." But it's actually a term of endearment. But that's sort of if you read Facebook in particular, those are the type of comments you get. They're not. They're not evidence based or or really informed.
unless I want entertainment, I never look at WRU Facebook comments.
No.
No.
It's good.
I just
good
like
advice.
some of the mad takes on who they should substitute for whom,
Yeah.
without taking into account whether A, they're even fit, B, if they've ever played that position before,
Yeah.
and C, they're trying to remove a player who actually made one of the few things that worked break.
Or D, have played in the last decade.
Yes.
There's a lot of like bring shame back, isn't there?
Yeah.
Anyway, so we'll go into the game in a little bit more detail. We're just going to very quickly get through the news.
Yep.
So, Nick, what have we got on news?
Well, not an awful lot really, and until today, some very good news regards to the imminent phased return to work for Abby Teeny. Obviously, she's had cancer, and she's followed that up with the treatment, and it was announced today she will take a phased return to work. So I think for her in her role as CEO, it's going to be a busy time. So I think as a podcast, we'd urge you not to overdo it. We are fully aware, and we don't need to go into the huge issues facing her and us all. But we wish her well for her return to work. In less good news, and to add to Abertillery's woes on the pitch, apparently there's a litigation going to be sought by a gentleman in North Wales against the club rather than an individual. This is following last week's wrap, in which part of their coaching team and a presenter on here gave a very positive, stirring and inspirational speech leading up to the Wales versus Argentina. And by early Saturday morning, there was a change of heart from this gentleman from North Wales because such hope had been instilled, and it resulted in the said person purchasing matching tickets for Sunday's game. The figure apparently being sought is not huge, but will cover the match ticket and travel expenses, as it was a complete and utter scam. And I just want to urge our audience to be aware in the future and not to be caught out like this gentleman was.
You enjoyed the game though, Nick, today?
I enjoyed it thoroughly.
Oh, dear me.
Well, that's the end of the news.
That's the end of the news, yeah.
Oh, how on earth am I following that one? Right, so moving on to the game on Sunday then. I think we're all aware of the score. good news is we scored 28 points. Bad news is we conceded 50 odd points.
But we scored 4 tries.
Yeah.
We did score 4 tries, and it was a variety-ish of tries, including one which was an absolute steal from the Cardiff 5-metre tap penalty playbook.
And one of them,
as Dan from Cardiff Rugby Life has pointed out, of a Danny Southworth try, and then Derry Lake scoring with the exact same move, which, you know what, great, it works. I think we'll start with the forward pack. So, Dan, I've given you first crack at this. Obviously, everyone feel free to jump in when they can.
Okay, so in terms of forward display, the top of the list has to be Superman Jack Morgan. It's such a heart-wrenching, gut-wrenching thing that he's gone and dislocated his shoulder, I believe, which is going to rule him out of contention for the rest. Well, not contention, as he'd have been selected for every game, but he is at the moment. I'm going to throw my colours to the mast here. For me, he's arguably the best forward in the Northern Hemisphere at the minute. I don't think there's anything he can't do. I thought his carrying on the weekend was another level up again for what we're used to seeing from him. Normally, we're used to him being that typical open side flanker, nuggety, loads of tackles, 15 to 20 tackles a game, 2 to 5 turnovers, win his little bit of line-up ball, so on and so forth, and link play. But 14 carries on the weekend. I think he was top in
yeah, it was
the top for carries, top for dominant carries in Welsh colours as well. The try that he scored sort of personified that, and I just thought he was absolutely fantastic. His offload for Thomas Williams, his try, I just think the boy's got a lot. So I really do wish him a speedy recovery, and hopefully the Ospreys get him back in black sooner rather than later, and we can see him for the Six Nations. I thought he was absolutely fantastic. In fairness to the guy, for someone who is still a relatively young age, and I suppose this might be one for the socials. But is he Wales' best open side flanker ever? He's not done the business for a long term yet, but I thought he was quality on the weekend, absolutely quality. Anyway, moving on. Go on, next.
He's got the potential, hasn't he?
He has.
He needs to play more, but everything he's done in Welsh colours, certainly puts him in that type of bracket.
It does, absolutely.
Do have a slight criticism of Jack Morgan, which may get me cancelled. However, I feel like I've said it before, but he kind of, I think it was when he was playing for the Ospreys a couple of weeks ago, where he tries to do so much and kind of be like this one-man army. And I wrote a note in the first half saying that if he continues to be a one-man army, it's going to bite him in the arse. And then in the second half, it did. And I think he almost he knows that he's kind of this talismanic figure at this point. And I think he overplays almost, and in this instance it got him injured. He maybe did he is quite small for an open side flanker. Did he need to be? There's just a lot of things there. I do worry about how durable he's going to be if he's constantly putting his body on the line like that.
I think with that one, I don't think he ever expected to score. I think it was like the first one when Derry went very close, and it was the next pickup that went over, I think. I think it was a missed tackle by one of the Argentinians that allowed him to go that little bit further.
Yeah.
But what he does really well, if you notice, he carries to an out shoulder. His footwork's good. His leg drive through contact, low centre of gravity. Yeah, just fantastic. Can't speak highly enough of the guy personally.
I'm basically saying he's too good.
Okay, we'll settle for that.
Yeah, we'll settle for that, yeah.
To avoid going full Sergio, I think for any Squidge fans will understand that one. I do think
Sorry, Harley. I was going to just say, unfortunately, he's entering into the Sergio Parisse of
That's
Wales.
what the streets be saying.
That's what the streets be saying, because he's that one player that's a cut above everybody else at the moment.
Just the one thing I would say with him getting the ball a lot more and being able to be a lot more influential in the game, I think it is a sign of the attacking pattern, and we're actually and the way Jockey's got those forwards set up in their pods.
Yeah,
but I said, if you want to go on to the to
Yeah.
the other 8 members of the pack.
Yeah,
other
absolutely.
members of the
Honourable
pack.
mentions for Dewi Lake, also carried well. Thought he was fantastic again. Gives us a bit of grunt. Aaron Wainwright carried willingly as well at times. Good go forward. Nice and tidy at the base of scrum. And Alex Mann was industrious throughout the fixture as well. I thought Rhys Carey did okay as well, especially at scrum time, as did, and I was pleasantly surprised, and I'll eat my own slice of humble pie here, was Mr. Azarati. I wouldn't have picked him, I wouldn't have selected him, but I thought his scrum went okay. And he also carried the ball in midfield as well. He had hands on, couple of gain line carries, so
I do have
good
an
on
issue
him.
here because he definitely made meters with some of those carries, and Rugby Pass
Yeah,
had
he
him down
did.
as no meters. They clearly just went, "Oh, it couldn't have been
It's
Azarati."
normally
No.
Azarati, yeah.
He
Yeah,
literally
they
made
just-
he made a carry in overfield, and I was like, "Oh, bloody hell, that was a good carry!" And then I realised who it was, and I was like, "Oh, that was a really good carry."
It was like 6 or
Yeah.
7 meters. Even
Must have
managed to
just
get back
been-
up and go again. It was
Must have
brilliant.
just been a copy and paste job, I reckon.
Yeah.
But I thought the 2 second rows went well.
Mhm.
Also, they were industrious. They were industrious throughout. I think our scrum struggled a little bit in the second half because we had to maintain both of those locks on the field due to obviously a couple of injuries, which meant that we unloaded Freddie Thomas and Cracknell into the back row. Scrum and set piece was okay. Line out faulted a little bit. For me, at crucial times as well. That seems to be a little bit of an Achilles heel for us. I think we had like an 80% win rate. A line out. So no, I think we only had 10. It's only 2 losses, but they seem to be a key and vital times for Wales, unfortunately.
There was one. Sorry, there was one in the first half where I think it was just, from what I could see, I haven't analysed it. The throw seemed fine, the lift seemed fine. Dav Jenkins got up high enough, and it just went through his hands.
I think it was Alex Mann actually. The ball just went through his fingers. I think.
Sorry, it was
Yeah.
an Alex Mann. Apologies to
Yeah.
Dav Jenkins, but I didn't look anything wrong in the way it was
No.
set up or thrown.
He just didn't catch it. Yeah, you're right. But on the whole, I thought we actually had some go forward ball at times as well. Like I said, Morgan carried, Wainwright carried for gain line, Dewi Lake carried for gain line. So we had plenty of go forward ball. Hence a score in 4 tries overall. Unfortunately, we did miss a lot of tackles. And the forwards are pretty much at the forefront of that as well. Unfortunately for them. So that's where I think we got to do better. I'm looking now, Alex Mann missed 4 tackles, Rhys Carey 2 tackles, Dav Jenkins 2 tackles, Beard 2 tackles, Wainwright 2 tackles. They all mount up, especially when it's close quarter stuff.
However, we were going for a lot of double tackles, and that's just going to artificially inflate the missed tackles.
And there's some as well. Dav Jenkins missed 2, but he made 18.
He was our top tackler.
And then Mann was only 1 behind with his foot. And with the way they were using Alex Mann in the line, he was that flyer, so he's almost more to spook tens inside. The issue we get with some of these missed tackles, particularly on kick chase, is the defensive line behind wasn't plugging gaps. So it wasn't that we were missing tackles, because actually the sort of defensive employing, that number of missed tackles isn't in itself bad. Yeah. It was the fact that we were leaving wide open gaps. So like with the Troy Matera setup just before half time, I think it's Tom Rogers who chases up for the kickoff, and Matera, there's just this huge gap because the props are just too wide.
Yeah, the kickoff thing for me, where we went down the centre a few times, I didn't really understand that. I know it was obviously try kick to compete, but I didn't really understand. I just think from a defensive perspective, and I know it's not just the pack involved in this, because there were some dominant collisions as well. We saw plenty of dominant collisions. So maybe, it's more of a whole team thing, but we can't miss 30 tackles and win a test match, no matter, irrespective of how you want to count them up, whether they're on a double, whether they're on a double shot, or whether they're on a kick chase, or whatever it is. You can't miss 30 tackles and win a test match, and that showed on the weekend.
Can I just come in then on the kicking strategy of the kickoffs, because it's very much an Osprey tactic, and it's a tactic. It's fine, but Ospreys use it a lot and with a lot of success. The difference is for the Ospreys, the right side winger, 6'2" Daniel Kasende, who's also very good in the air. We send up for it, but I didn't quite understand how. No disrespect to Blair Murray, he's quite small, maybe even say diminutive, why he's been sent up to compete in the middle of the field for kickoffs. So the plan is fine, but that's down to the coaching and organisation. Surely that should have been Rogers or Adams chasing.
Yeah, I'd
Or
agree with
even
that. And I also
Llewellyn,
think
who's
as
actually
well,
decent
Mm.
aerially.
yeah, but I also think as well, it's like quite high risk because you're dropping
Yeah,
it sort of centre field. And it showed in the end, didn't it? Because
yeah,
they made real good field position from it on a number of occasions where they made line breaks and
mhm,
ultimately they scored from one of them as well.
yeah,
So, what's the definition of insanity doing the same thing over and over
yeah,
again and expecting a different result? So,
yeah,
and we all know, especially against the Argentinians and the way they are at the minute, if it was me, I'd have been sticking it long into a
yeah.
bottom corner, making them kick it out and resetting from a line out somewhere. But there you go, that's just me. But going back to the forwards, just to wrap that up, on the whole, for me, it's a solid B performance. Right? C plus B. I think it's much improved from previous. I saw seen some people online saying, "Oh no, they weren't. It's the same old rubbish from Wales." And I'm like, it didn't seem like that to me. Maybe I
Mm.
watched a different game to other people, but I thought there was more endeavour. We had more intent. We carried the ball a bit harder. We put some double shots in. Um, and for me, we clearly had an identity. So yeah, improved.
Can I
Um,
just ask Dan and anybody else, what did you think was the issue scrum time? Was it just the second rows when pushing as hard as they had been, when Griffin and Nicky Smith, who on paper is probably our best loose head in the scrum, and he had his moments, certainly in open field. I think he won a turnover,
Mm.
and so did Griffin. Carried well, but we did struggle when we had that different front rowing. Had
yeah,
led to a couple of penalties. What do you see as the issue? Is it just technique
what we
or strong?
well.
It's more than that.
I think it's maybe two things to that. What they brought off the bench was good and
Hmm.
probably better than maybe what we brought off the bench, especially in terms of their loose head having a pop at Archie Griffin,
Hmm.
who was done for standing up once or twice.
Hmm.
Is Liam Belcher's not the biggest man then in the middle of that scrum compared to someone like Dewi Lake, who's a big man.
Yeah,
So that makes a difference as well. Your hooker in the middle of that because on their ball he can't come across and help our tight head.
no,
So there's a little bit of he struggles a little bit in there maybe, and also
hmm,
I do think a big factor as well is the fact that we weren't able to change our locks or one of them.
yeah,
Ideally you'd be able to make a change, at least change one of the locks and stick that
yeah,
fresh lock behind the tight head.
yeah,
So you've got someone
hmm,
able to give it everything that they've got,
hmm,
full beans for the last 20, 30 minutes where we weren't able to do that on the weekend. So I think it's a mixture of a couple of things, not
hmm,
just one or
yeah.
two, if that makes
Okay,
sense.
yeah, no, thank you.
Do you think
Especially,
Archie not actually scrummaging for best part of 2 months
I think you
effectively would
mentioned it
also
before,
have caused
Harley.
some
I
issues?
I think I'm 100% behind your comments. I'm not sure if you said in the pod, but certainly in the group, WhatsApp group. It's ridiculous, isn't it? We've got a second choice, oh, Wales tight head, who's fourth choice at Bath. And I know there's a lot of good players at Bath. And I know he's coming up against some against really good players in training, but it's not the same as playing week in, week out. He's 24 now, and he needs to be playing week out. I really think we as a Welsh Rugby Union, and I know what's going on and so on, but we need to be trying to get him a loan move to somewhere in
mm,
Wales for the rest of this season. Because if
So
he's
Dragons might be a shout. I mean, they're having a few
exactly
issues there.
any of us would welcome him, and moving further, unless Johan van Gran can promise him next season when stepping to try, if he only moves up to third choice,
it's
Welsh
not
Rugby Union
enough.
need to buy him out of his Bath contract. It's
Mm.
ridiculous that he's playing so little.
I'd also say with the locks, like we're looking at two players who haven't played an awful lot of international rugby recently, which is another level to club rugby, even though they have both been putting minutes in.
Mm,
Um, and it's not been because they've not been selected. It's been through injury, and so they are both still on that protocol. So I
mhm,
think, like Dan's right, not being able to bring at least one of them off,
mhm.
kind of meant that they were just a bit out of it by the end.
All right, so that's the people who do all the hard work up front. So Hattie, as the closest thing to a back on the panel, because I'm sure you were slightly more active as a back rower than I ever am. You can deal with how you think the pretty boys went.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be an opinionated flanker. That's fine. I'll have an opinion about what the backs are doing.
And what was that
Um,
flank? An opinionated flanker, or was that something else?
um, so for me, the whereas the forwards, I was like overall quite impressed with them, and I was like, okay, solid. The backs, we had some real highs and some real lows. I think our defence was quite poor, as we've already mentioned, off kick chase. I also found that the backs, and this was just kind of a theme for me throughout the match, and it didn't really matter what was happening, whether it was our set pieces we went on, whether it was our defence, whether it was our attack. As time went on, it just got worse. So when it came to defence, it was yes, we were settled, but the back specifically, as more and more phases went on, they would kind of drop off and it'd get a little bit worse. In their attack, if the phases went on again, they would drop off a little bit and it would just kind of fizzle out into nothing. Um, I found that I think our centre partnership was really good. I personally wouldn't drop either of them going into next week. I think, yes, we did have a yellow card. I have many thoughts and feelings about the yellow card, which I won't go into. But there we go. Um, I think that's something that we keep the pairing. I think it will mature. I think it will grow as time goes on. I think Dan Edwards, which we've kind of slightly touched on, where he kept doing the same thing over and over, especially off kickoff. I think that just is maybe something he'll mature and grow into. Again, I think he played relatively well. I think he had moments of brilliance. His break was amazing. He's very quick. I didn't realise how quick he was, quite frankly. Um, I think we played really well with 14 when we lost Thomas Williams and when we lost Ben Thomas as well. Um, I think the backs, as I said, like it was these great highs where the backs in their attack significantly better than any time under Gatland, arguably better than like pre 2019 Gatland, where we were just giving the ball to the forwards and hoping for the best. So it was good. It was good rugby to watch, but their defence was weaker. Their discipline was weaker. I would say when Louis Rees-Zammit came on, which is obviously a big talking point for a lot of people, I forgot how fast he accelerates. But he also conceded the most amount of turnovers of anyone in that game. I think he was quite weak defensively, and I also think he just seemed quite rusty, especially when it came to his signature little chip. He'd send it through a few times, and it just had too much power on it, and he wasn't able to regather it. I think I'd like to see him play more and get more minutes. But I think overall, I felt that we just weren't meshed as a group, and that really, really showed in the backs. And it just meant that everything just wasn't very cohesive. I don't know what you guys thought.
Yeah, I think it's fair enough, particularly with the lack of mesh. But when you think about how many different clubs our backline's assembled from,
That's it. Like it's so many different clubs and so many like we're constantly well, we have previously been constantly swapping centre partnerships, constantly swapping our back three options, constantly swapping not so much nine, but definitely 10. I feel like it's almost like, okay, yes, this wasn't a solid performance. I would say that the backs were, even though the backs had maybe higher moments than some of the forwards did, I think overall they were worse because their bad moments were worse. Would you
I think
agree?
it's sum up the game quite well, because I feel like overall Wales, like if you think about the floor of that performance in the seat, like and where they were, is like I feel like the overall level of that Wales team was a lot better than that scoreline suggests.
Yeah,
But when we got it wrong, we got it so
wrong.
catastrophically wrong. That's where we started. I mean,
And,
I said the kickoffs either side of half time, prime examples where we just completely botched the chase.
and I have to be
That
frank,
and then that's 14 cheap points.
and a lot of it, like I don't want to blame specific players, and I think it was more of like a system issue in the fact that they haven't had chance for this new defensive structure to bed in. They haven't had chance to kind of mesh well as a group. But actually, if you think, okay, well, if there's a line break, it's not going to be your front row chasing after it. It should be your backs that are kind of carrying that defensive issue there. And they were just kind of nowhere to be found. And they caused the line break in the first place. So that maybe it was the back's fault.
Can I come in?
Yes.
Of course.
I partly agree with some things Hattie and you said, but I also would like to challenge some of those things.
Go for it,
I,
Nick.
I thought our kick, we were very, very poor aerially. Our kicking and receiving was very poor. I thought Rogers and Murray in particular. Murray is a dilemma for me.
It's his scrum cap.
Is very good
Rogers
going
hasn't got a
forward.
scrum cap and he's lost his magic powers.
Yeah.
And ever
Okay.
since Blair started messing with his hair.
Well, there we are. Murray is a dilemma for me. He's very good going forward and he's got a decent kicking game, but he's been totally found out area at 15. And other international teams will note that. And I'm not even sure he's got enough top end speed to be a winger. I thought Ben Thomas had a very poor game in general. It was an absolutely stupid yellow card. We just got back into the game, scoring 2 tries, despite us letting in 2 simple tries in the first quarter ourselves. There was a theme there, actually, as developed as the game went on. But every time Argentina scored a try, they scored 2. Dan just did some very good things. It was sort of, had he scored and he was only an ankle tap away. I can't remember now said half making a break like that since Jonathan Davis Mark 1 way back in the last century.
Yeah, you find that break was set up entirely by the very poor Ben Thomas, who actually was very good with that game, and I think he was.
I'm only calling it Harley as I saw. Carly,
because frankly, I'd be more annoyed if he just lay there.
I'm only calling as I saw it.
He's holding my leg. Oh no!
I'm only calling as I saw it. Yeah, you're entitled to your opinion. I'm entitled to mine. But I don't think I need to see more from Ben Thomas, and also Ben Thomas and Max Llewellyn have played an awful lot together now, more than anybody else. So I thought Max Llewellyn actually played all right. Is some of his defensive reads and so on, but I need to see more from Ben Thomas to be convinced he's the answer at 12.
And I think that's it. I agree with you. We need to see more. Like, we need to see them play together at that level. I think, yes, they've played together at Cardiff, but they've also not played together recently, and they've also not necessarily played that much together at international level. And I think with our centre partnerships specifically, we actually just need to kind of pick an option and stick with it. Like, yes, it might not be functioning exactly how we want it to right now, but I think we need to carry on going, because constantly chopping and changing is what's caused us the problems, I think.
I think they've had about 7 of the last 9 games together as a partnership. So how long do you leave it? But I agree for next week. But after that, for me, it's last chance saloon for that partnership.
Well, so where do we? How do I follow that, Nick? That was very impassioned then. Well done. And I thought it was a fair assessment as well, actually. I couldn't agree more that we lost the aerial battle. And a large part of that, I think, unfortunately, was Blair Murray and Tom Rogers. I thought Josh Adams played well. He's very good defensively, loads of experience in terms of managing that wing area. I didn't think we managed the backfield particularly well. If you noticed their second try, we Dan Edwards sticking up and under in. We sort of tap it back a little bit, but we should be 13-2 in that backfield, and we're not. So someone hasn't dropped back into that backfield. Now, normally you'd have kicker plus 15. Well, if 15's chasing, maybe we need kicker plus 9. So Thomas needs to drop into the backfield or winger, and you should have effectively someone else then being able to corner flag from that side to try and help make a cover tackle. So we were a man down in the backfield anyway. I think that's a system error, and we've got that wrong. I thought, working from the sort of inside out, I thought Thomas Williams was good. He's definitely our first choice, number 9. There's no doubt about that. And I thought and I genuinely think Dan Edwards is probably our long-term option at the moment at 10. I thought he controlled the game pretty well at times, especially when we had front football, and his break from the kickoff was exceptional. So he's clearly got a turn of speed. I think we need to give him a little bit more time in the chain now moving forward, especially I'd give him these next 4 games, these next 3 games now, just to see if we can solidify that. And the centre partnership is a problem for us. I think we've had so many. I agree with you guys that I'd keep, and I don't want to jump the gun here because I know we're going to talk about it later on, but I'd keep as much of the same team as possible for continuity for next week. So Ben Thomas would stay. Is he the answer at 12 internationally? I don't know. Who else is the answer internationally? I don't know at 12. Max Llewellyn did okay at 13. Um, I was a bit nonplussed about Max Llewellyn. I think they did okay. But ultimately, we lost the kicking battle. And our backfield coverage was really, really poor. And at international rugby, if you lose the kicking battle, you're going to lose the game. The same as if you don't win enough collisions. And unfortunately, Argentina won more collisions and they won the kicking battle. Hence the near 20 odd point margin of victory for them. So yeah, and I know Harley will stick up for Ben Thomas. I didn't think he was poor. Ben Thomas is clearly a gifted rugby player. There's no doubt about that. But is he the answer at 12? I don't know. No, I think they're going to persevere with him longer, um, based on the fact of the way Jockey wants to play, almost like having a first and second 5'8". But if you look at New Zealand, for example, who play a first and second 5'8", you normally have one of the Barrett brothers in at 12, who's 6'3", 6'4", and 100 odd kilos. So when they need to get out of trouble and they need to carry the ball over the gain line, they can do that as well as distributing, as well as being ball players. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how that unfolds. But we definitely had an attacking identity,
Oh yeah,
didn't we? We were pulling balls at the back. It looked good. Rogers on that one break, swapped hands, lovely, fended someone off. So we definitely had some good attacking intent there. There's no doubt about that.
and unfortunately, we don't have what almost Argentina had, where they had that both. What a luxury! You've got
Yeah,
big lads who can ball play as well. At
yeah,
the moment, we're having to make a shout, and I do recognise Ben Thomas as a good passer of the ball. No, 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 I'm not being disrespectful. I hope you feel to him. But at the moment, you've got to. It's weighing up. At the moment, we either seem to have a choice of you have a big bugger who can chuck it up, or who's
yeah,
physical, or you have a ball player, and ultimately that's our call. One of the things I think everybody was guilty of was overplaying. There was one passage in I think maybe it was the beginning of the second half where we went round about midfield. We went 10-meter line forward, 10-meter line back, back to our 10-meter line. Went nowhere. They turned the ball over, which you could see from the stands after about 14, 15 phases, and they scored down our end. Somebody should have taken control of that, and Dan should have done, Thomas should have done, and just bloody kicked it into the corner in their 22. We were going nowhere. They're one of the best transition teams you play against. We've got another one coming up against New Zealand. Just cut your losses. You're not going nowhere. Bloody kick it down the park.
yeah. I'd go along with that. And the same thing happened from the kickoff effectively as well. When we kick it to compete like that, you're effectively giving them transition, and
Yeah.
it's they catch the ball, they turn it over, it's catch, pass, offload, and they're in and away. And you're quite right there. And that passage of play that you're on about, Nick, I think was between the two 10-meter lines.
Yeah.
We're not going anywhere. I think that because we had success from it, particularly in the first half,
Mm.
where we did play at the back, and they sat off us a little bit and didn't quite know how to manage that. They made a change, I think, at half time, and they came out and they started defending the passing lanes more. If you
Yeah.
notice, they were standing men in the passing lanes, so it altered that our ability to play out the back that a little bit more. So therefore, go aerial or go into
Yeah.
the corner and
Yeah.
change that picture. But that'll only come from playing together now.
Oh yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and like you said, Dan Edwards should be managing that quite rightly. He should be. But it's his third cap, second start,
Yeah.
fourth cap, whatever it is. He
Third.
needs he
Yeah.
needs that time in the chair
Yeah.
to get that experience.
And I think one of the things that we're kind of comparing it to, or we're not necessarily, but definitely the media, social media, is that people are going, oh, well, it's Argentina. Yeah, but it's a very good Argentina side. And not only that, but really, we should have had this rebuild, or you'd expect to have this kind of rebuild after a World Cup, not a couple of months out from a Lions tour. What? Just under 2 years out from the actual World Cup itself. We're in the middle of the cycle, whereas we're starting the cycle in the middle rather, and everybody else
Yeah.
is in the middle. So,
Yeah.
and it's not like we're rebuilding off something good. We're rebuilding off something which didn't exist. We know that after Gats went, it kind of came out that we didn't have an exit strategy. We didn't have X. We didn't have Y, whatever. And so everything's being built from the ground up. And we're doing all of that in the uncertainty and knowing that we're losing a team. Like It's not going to be new manager bounce where we all of a sudden come back and start beating people. It's going to be slow.
Yeah, and I think that's a valid point as well. You need to look at this fixture in the context of everything that's going on, and that's in terms of Argentina as well. Argentina have just come back off the back of a summer series against England, where I know they lost at home, but were able to, test new combinations. Then they've come off a full rugby championship where
And
they've beaten South Africa. Did they beat South Africa? Beat
I think it was the first time they've ever
beat New
beat
Zealand.
every single team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, they come in, they're battle hardened. They've been together for weeks and weeks and months even. And Wales's first camp together, new
Yeah.
squad, new coach, all the stuff going on. So, and this is where I'm trying to say all the negativity on social media go, well, actually, did we expect to win? No. Did the scoreline flatten them a little bit? Yeah, I mean, the kick from, who's the boy who plays flanker?
Matera.
God.
Matera.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you
Another
could
day
try that
happening.
another. You could try that another 100 times, and 99 times it's out on the full, or he scuffs it, or he shins it, or something. Good on him. It worked the once, but that ain't happening too often. So you
No.
can. That's a bit of a freak score. You can
But
strike that
he was
off.
having a game of it because he won his Oscar.
He did.
Yeah, exactly. We
Well,
had
for
two
that.
yellow cards as well, mind.
Yeah, we played.
Um,
20 minutes down to
so we played
14, didn't we?
20 minutes down to 14.
And I
So
thought
all these little things.
we didn't necessarily play badly when we were down to
No,
14.
no.
No, and
I
that's what I
thought
mean. We
Dan
scored 4
Edwards-
tries.
Dan Edwards did a fairly good turn at 9. He was a bit slow, but he wasn't too bad.
To be fair, look, I can get that as not being used to going into the base. I did love a bit where he just went, just pick and go, just pick and go. I'll tell you what I want it. And do you know what? Fair folks. I mean, the best Dan Edwards moment, and it's not. It is literally tell me you're a 10 without saying you're a 10. And there's one where there's a ruck, and he just sort of go, like, it was a one ruck, so it didn't affect the game at all. But I love the fact he just went, no, I'm not sticking my head in that. And do you know what? I respect a lad for keeping his hair sorted, that sort of thing. Whereas I just go flying in, love it.
Yeah.
I think unless anyone's got anything else they want to say about the game, I mean, there is another Rugby's for Lovers moment that we saw with Derry Lake and Jack Morgan having a bro moment on the bench.
They did.
Having a touch.
I was like, oh.
Do you know what we did see, which I'm going to point out because I don't know how often we're going to be able to say this, and I don't think it's ever been said before on a rugby podcast.
Wow.
But Louis Rees-Zammit ran into contact.
He went looking for it, Hattie.
He did.
I saw that.
He did.
Do you know what? Fair play to him. He did it quite well.
Yeah.
I know I've been, sort of more of a skeptic on that. I did kind of like him. The defense on that wing did go down a bit. I think his aerial game. I think he's not used to that. And as Hattie mentioned with his kicking, I think he's got to get used to the dimensions of the rugby pitch again.
And he's also like, when you actually think about how much rugby has he actually played for Bristol this season?
Yeah, glad he played
So,
it.
so he's barely played any rugby in like the last 2 years.
Yeah.
So
I think it's been some Prem Cup and a friendly, and then I think he had that one game, and then he stubbed his toe or whatever the injury was.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make I'm making light of it, but I genuinely, I know if pace is your speed, anything south of the waist is going to cause huge problems. So,
but didn't it also come out once that he had a bruise and so he wouldn't train? So I think it's pretty fair to say he stubbed his toe.
I was being nice. All right, Dan made the call for positivity. I'm trying to go for positivity here.
And on the positivity note, there's your segue into next week, Harley. Perfect.
And you just completely interrupted and ruined it. But yes, so moving on to next week. So we will be hosting the Brave Blossoms of Japan. It is the unofficial third test of our series. We're currently 1-1. This is our time to stake our foot and secure 12th in the world and make sure we stay in that second tier of rugby. We'll talk about some of the things. So I think we've covered that game pretty well. What changes do we think we need to make? So if we sort about maybe tactically changes, or if we're going to go same again but better. So we start with that, and then we'll start moving into what sort of personnel changes. Obviously, we are going to have to replace Jack Morgan, but as I said, we'll get onto that as and when. So Nick, as the other two took a half each, I'd like you to start on this one.
I think it's more structurally, really. There were elements where we weren't very cohesive, such as defence. We seem to get unpicked quite fairly easily out wide now. So I don't Tandy, from what I remember from his Scottish coaching days and as a defence coach, might have had his wingers flying up a bit more to squeeze the ball back into the centre. Argentina are very good at doing that, of course, and they've demonstrated that against the best teams in the world. But I think that'd be something I'd be looking to do. Surely we can't be as bad-headedly, even with the same personnel, against Japan, who the one advantage we have over Japan is they're not the biggest men in the world in the back three.
I
So
was going to say that they have a very tall lock partnership now.
yeah, oh no, tall. I'm not, but in the back three.
Yeah, in the back three they are
Yeah,
relatively small.
so we would hope at least to get parity in that type of game. So those would be structural things that I'd be looking to improve.
I'd agree.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the kicking game needs to be much better. We can win the test match off the back of a good kicking game against Japan. There's no doubt about it. I think our team is improved from what went to Japan and won in Japan as well in those horrible, horrible conditions. We didn't have Jack Morgan out there. We're not going to have him this time, unfortunately. He's a massive, massive loss for us. He's a proper talisman at the moment. I think, I don't want to fanboy too much, but he's top player. I'd even pick him for Abbott Leary on a Saturday. He's been that impressive.
That'd be a hell of a ringer.
It would be a hell of a ringer. I wonder if we could get a permit. But yeah, no. All jokes aside, I think that. But other than that, I think we do need to improve those things. But we need to keep improving what we need to build on what we sort of laid some foundations on Saturday in terms of our attacking ID and so on and so forth. So I'd like to see some more of that. And I'd like for us just to not miss 30 tackles. I got no doubt Tandy will solidify the defence over the next week. It's probably a couple of system errors, like I mentioned. I felt there was a couple of errors in the backfield. So we'll probably be a little bit better than that. And that's where I'd expect us to go with it. I think it's important that, it is an important test match for us because it makes a difference to world rankings and our World Cup seedings. But I'm confident that we'll win at home.
I think for me, a lot of it's just carry on as we were. I think a lot of our issues were just we haven't had time to gel and haven't had time to bed in. So there isn't too much structurally I would change, although I would say that they really need to train their kicking strategy this week because it was extremely poor.
What about you, Harley? What do you suggest?
I agree with Harley. I think our kicking game needs to be sort of nailed. I think for me at the moment, I think we need to sort of refine it. I think when we're playing that game without obvious mistakes, that's when we can say, all right, now we need to change things up. But at the moment, I think, well, actually set piece, couple wobbles, but wasn't as bad as it has been in the past. The kicking game, you can see what they're trying to do and you can see how it would work. But again, it's refinement. It's making sure players know exactly where they need to be for that. Same with defence. The attack, I think we need, a bit like with Jockey's attacking when with Cardiff, it's taken a few seasons to get it clicking and then to have plan B sorted out for when teams come up at you hard and get in the way that put those passing channels.
Can I just,
So I think
sorry, go on, you finish. Apologies.
I was just basically going to go on to with watching Japan against Ireland. They're playing some very nice fancy patterns as well. I don't think they necessarily go the game, and I don't think they're necessarily much better than they were in Japan. Whereas I feel we have improved. I mean, they're famous. They're words you're going to carve on my tombstone. But what do you think? So, what were you going to jump in with, Nick?
Just that I want to just emphasise that the head coach is not Mark Sherratt any longer. This is Steve Tandy's team. He's the head coach, and I want to see a Steve Tandy stamp. Mark Sherratt can contribute to his attacking plays as others can with their abilities, but this is a Steve Tandy team.
Yes, but I was referring to the attack, which is the Matt Sherratt attack. So that's where I was comparing it to Cardinal.
Okay, fair enough.
But he obviously likes what Matt Sherratt wants to do in an attack. That's what I was going with that.
I think on that note, I think we'll see more at Tandy's stamp when we haven't got the ball. Because he's built his I think he's built a lot of his coaching career around, being a world-class defence coach. He did a good job with Scotland. So I think we'll see more. I thought we saw more Steve Tandy actually, because there were some good defensive sets on. Even though we missed a few tackles, I thought there were some good defensive sets on Saturday at times. So I think we'll see his fingerprints all over that element of our game and our kicking strategy, and probably as well, maybe more in the forwards, Nick. I don't know what you say about that, because ultimately he has been a forward all his career and a good forward at that as well. So maybe we'll see more of his DNA around that sort of element rather than
What
I
I've
go, I
not
go,
Yeah,
go
what
on,
I've
Nick. Yeah.
noticed a lot with quite a few teams now, where teams used to be criticised if they got too much around bees around the honey when you're sort of 5 or 6 yards out, and I'm not just about Wales, but I've noticed there's more of a tendency to keep, whereas you'd always previously give yourself width, give yourself options, but and we did it as well on Sunday. When you're getting 4, 5, 6 meters out, we all, teams are bunching around the ball, but that for me is a deliberate tactic.
Yeah, I think I brought this up on the pod previously when we've talked about the Dragons. Like when teams get in that close, it's so hard to stop that close to the line now. I think it's much lower risk. Teams are under such amount of pressure defensively not to concede penalties, offside penalties, tackle infringement, no arms. You're risking yellow cards for repeating penalties if you keep teams in there. And if you watch the way they normally try to carry out towards like the B defender on an outside shoulder, clean deep. So you clean someone deep, tackle the tackler, clean deep, it affects the fold. And effectively it's just a race around the corner then who can pick and go quick enough. It's real simple and real effective.
Mm.
That's it. That tactic is one of those things. You've got to have big carries who are willing to make those extra inches.
Yeah.
And your cleans have to be spot on, because you also can't just go straight over the top. So you've got it's which thankfully we've got some a few more decent carriers in that side now, and you do have people who work is actually pretty good.
I don't think we were penalised, as an improvement.
I'm not saying we were.
No, but I think that was that a better element on Sunday where previously we might have been.
I think our ball retention was a lot better for the most part. There were a couple of turnovers, but
we actually conceded less turnovers than Argentina.
Yeah. Was our ruck speed better as well? Do you think? I thought
our ruck speed was better than Argentina's, but it was still above 3 seconds on average. Okay. So that's something we need to get a bit better. And as I said, with the turnovers, there's always exceptions. So that passage you're on about where we were basically batting between the 10-meter halfway, we'd kick it, win the contest, and then we'd throw the ball back 10 meters and then just about make the line. You see Thomas basically does a desperate chip over the top.
Yeah.
Where he gets half charged down. And then that scramble completely ruins our shape, and then we get turned over. That's when our players were quite, there's a poor skill execution or brilliant skill execution on the half charge down, and then they weren't quick enough to react to get over it. But I think for the most part, our ball retention is a lot better than it has been, certainly towards the end of the Gatland era. So I think, and you could see, and speaking of, Tandy's influence in defence, that the amount of counter-rucking we were going for, and you've seen people hit, chopping someone down straight onto their feet and getting up. And it's the effort, I think that's where the Ben Thomas thing came from. It is the the desire and the effort to get back into that defensive line, to steal them down. That Wales team, we're going to die on their shield no matter what. And I was very proud of that. Now, did anyone else catch Ireland versus Japan on the weekend?
Yeah,
I saw it.
So just a bit of the views about our opposition.
Oh, I have to be honest, my main takeaway from that match was that the Irish line-out was appalling.
Yeah.
And part of it was, the Irish line-out was bad anyway. And that goes for the men's team and the women's team. I don't know what goes on in their coaching, but it's horrendous. But part of it is that Japan were just so quick with their line-out that it was like rushing Ireland, and they just didn't have... Even when it was their own ball, they just didn't have a chance, and they were just flubbing it. So that is something where we're going to need kind of that level head of Adam Beard, but he is a good line-out forward, and I think his maul, both sides maul this last week were excellent, and I think he's going to be pretty key going into the Japan game.
Yeah, Japan, when they can speed up the game, look fantastic. And obviously that's a concern. They have actually got quite a few big men. The people who've been there for 3 years, well, 5 years now, isn't it? And longer. And I think there's a guy in Australian who's going to be available this weekend. I think I've heard him saying,
Yeah, I think
Heckling,
he's-
6'9", whatever. Whether he'll go straight into the team because actually their second row has played very well. Yeah, when they can speed up the game and they've got small nippy wingers, and obviously give them any space, they'll crucify you. But even though Ireland had their lineup woes, even though Ireland were less than coherent and fluid in their game, and they've got perhaps some issues, I think the overall scoring tries, like 6 tries to 1, something like that. I can't remember exactly. So yeah, 6 tries to 1. So they were comprehensively beaten in the end. We won't perhaps beat them as comprehensively, but if we put in a performance and improve the areas we've already referred to, I think we've got a very good chance of beating them at home.
I see. Dan, anything to add there?
No, I'd second that. I think we do need to overpower them. There's no doubt about that. Like Nick said, if we let them get speed into the game, and have rucks at sort of 3 seconds and play at the line, then they're going to cause us problems. But if we can win the aerial battle, and it's boring really rugby in there. If we can win the aerial battle and win more collisions than them, we win the game. Simple as that. It really is. Really is that simple. And I think we've got the personnel to do it even more so than we did when we went out to Japan.
I think maybe that should be our T-shirt.
Yeah.
Win
Win the
collisions.
area,
Win collisions.
I watch Loughborough Lightning games now, and every time Sadio Kabir or one of the other forwards makes a huge collision, because that's just kind of what they're known for, I have Dan in the back of my head going, collisions.
What about you, Harley? What do you see as Japan's biggest challenges, for us?
I mean, we talk about that, the speed in the line out, and they're well drilled and they're so detailed. I mean, Eddie Jones, as much as he will rub everyone up the wrong way, he can be incredibly anal on detail to that. And I think Warner Dearns is one of the most underrated line out callers, particularly in defence out there. So I think we just don't. Ireland have been struggling with their line out for quite a while. A lot of it, I think, that they just overcomplicate. I think we've just got to be doing a lot of in and out.
Yeah.
Just go.
Yeah.
Don't mess about a bit. Get your 2 tallest lifters and your tallest jumper. Make it as tall as possible. Just try and get it through, or even not even your tallest, just your best up off the floor.
Quickest,
the sort of things Tippett was absolutely fantastic on. The fact, he almost didn't need a lift. He was just that spring in the air. I think that's going to be their kicking game. We've just got to be on point. Like, if we are going to go kick to good beats, even if we're only making it 50-50 and making a mess of it, that line's got to be there, ready to read the defend or attack, or we need to get it, getting it off and just set. And I'll be honest, it's a bugbear of most people, but we've got to slow the hell of that. We've got to slow the heck out of that game and just make it on our terms, and just go through. And Japan will tire. They may have had the use of the conditions there, but they are, one thing they showed in Ireland is they just can't keep at that pace for 80. So we've got to make them just keep almost play it. Basically, we've got to do what Argentina did to us, which is force them to overplay, because the mistakes will come. And I think we do have players over it. But I think that Argentina performance, if every single facet was 5 to 10% better, I think we'd beat Japan easily. Question is, do we get that? Is having that improvement? That being said, let's talk changes to the teams now. I'm going to brush through this very, very quickly, but so I think I personally agree with Dan. I think we keep it the same as possible. So unless there are any difference, I'm saying starting type 5.
I might make a case.
Maybe freshening up the locks.
I wouldn't.
But I think giving them another game is going to hurt.
I didn't see enough, because I didn't focus on it, about how much Carey contributed outside of, because I've seen, I take this with a pinch of salt, social media comments that he was tired after 10. I don't know if that's true. Because I haven't watched it and looked at what Carey did. But he certainly did well in all the aspects which were I saw, and certainly the scrummaging. I could make a case possibly just to freshen up the front row, maybe start Nicky or maybe start Tom, but Carey definitely in the 23.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue, I think you're right, do we change our props or whatever? I personally didn't think that Kare was tired. I thought Azarati was. I made a note that at 20 minutes he was blowing.
Oh, that's just his 20-minute sit down.
Yeah.
That's another thing. All Cardiff fans know about this. And he has like a
Um,
10-minute thing where he goes down to get strapping.
yeah.
It's part of his game routine. It's what makes him the elite athlete he supposedly is.
But I have to be completely honest, I'd rather keep the same combination and have the likes of Nicky Smith on the bench to be that strong scrummager coming on. It would maybe concern me if we messed around on just such an important game.
I'd have no problem starting the same front five.
Yeah, if we were going to make changes, I would change. But yeah, I just swap them out and stick them on the bench. So I keep the same 4 props in the squad. I just
So just
rotate
swap
them
them
around
over.
because, I can see what you're saying. Nicky Smith offering better scrummaging coming off the bench. The counter argument to that would be you can go and unleash Reece Carey for 30 minutes and let him run over people when you've got a
You-
load of tired Japanese players running around the field. I mean, it's 6 of one, half it is the other, I suppose. And as we discussed previously, it's Hobson's choice on the tight end what you do there. So no, I'm joking. For me, they start the same again.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's really
absolutely.
one or the other, isn't it? Like, there's pros and cons to both,
So,
and it all
yeah,
comes
my,
out the
my
same.
my only thing is this is a 6-day turnaround we've got. So that's where I'd say maybe be looking. But I feel like the props were changed early enough that I don't think it
Yeah.
really matters. Whereas the second row's having a full 80. I think that for me might change my bench slightly.
Yeah.
But we'll get onto that later. So back row, obviously a huge gaping Jack Morgan sized hole in it. So I think we all agreed, but I think we've all said that Alex Mann and Aaron Wainwright did absolutely fantastically. I think Cracknell came on and played the 7 role quite well. And then when he switched to 8 later on in the game, I thought, he's adding that carrying, he's adding that physicality in defence. Would you say just set it as those 3 for now, or would you do some more? I know Hattie, you were talking about if not on the back channels, and one of the other back channels about rearranging it all.
I don't think Cracknell is a 7 to me.
No.
I think he's a 6. I mean, I know he plays 8 a lot as well. I think if you have him and Wainwright, they're very similar players. I think if we know that we're going to get a call up. Reffel was kind of name dropped. I think if he went in as starting 7, it would make sense to me to have Cracknell. But I don't think Man did anything wrong. I think Cracknell was maybe a bit more physical. He's a bit bigger. He's a bit more of a lump. But is that necessarily what you need against Japan, who, like us, struggle for size in the back row? So yeah, it just depends who we pick at 7.
Yeah, are we confident? I know he looked to be in a bit of a bad way coming off on Sunday, but I've read afterwards it was only cramp for Wainwright to be sort of confidently will be fit.
Yeah, they've said so.
He needs to drink more pickle juice in the week.
And
And
so,
he'll be
yeah,
fine.
get some Lucozade Sport down, and he'll be
My
all right.
my
He'll be
my
all right.
thing my thing for the open side thing issue is that with Jack, there's a nice balance. He's an out and out open side flanker for me, really. I thought the way he played the game on the weekend sort of personified that good in the wide channels, offloading, linking play, nuisance at the ruck. And because he's out injured, it would give us an opportunity not to mess things around too much and bring a sort of like for like in a 7 for a 7, which is where you'd be looking at someone like a Raffle. But the other one for me would be Deves. Does he get a cap and a first start? Another proper 7.
Another one mentioned in dispatches.
So if
I think
either
it
of
does
those,
depend on who they call up.
yeah, it does. Of course, it does. And if, for example, like if those, if one of those 2 came in, I wouldn't be, I wouldn't object to them starting in the number 7 jersey and keeping Cracknell on the bench, for example, just because I get the balance factor of having the right people, the right people in the right positions. on match day, and it gives us that breakdown threat as well.
You
I
don't
think
think
Cracknell as
Man
well
could
is,
do a job at
is
7?
pretty good as an is a decent bench
Yeah.
option because he will come in and add an impact. And I think whether you swap him in at 6, 7, or 8, he's gonna do a job.
Yeah.
No,
What do you say about
I know
Man
he's
then?
not. I know he's
Man
not
at
an out and out
7, no.
7. Although I could have sworn he started off that there. But I mean, I think Wales just produced so many 7s, half of them
Yeah.
have to specialise as hookers or 6s.
You don't think Man could do a job at 7?
Not
I
at
think he
international
definitely could.
level. I don't think he.
I don't think he's an out and out jackal threat enough. I think
No,
he's
no.
probably comfortable enough in the wide channels and that thing. I don't think he carries like Jack Morgan. But I said if you're bringing in someone like Cracknell who's replacing that, it basically you'd be swapping your roles a little bit.
That's
And I
another
think-
option, isn't it? Cracknell, Man, and Wainwright.
Yeah. So I mean that was the thing I was suggesting. Is,
Yeah.
not quite
Well,
the one we finished on there.
Yeah, and again, I wouldn't be adverse to that because what I want for this week is continuity, as much continuity as possible. But because it's not like Jack's not available, so you've got to bring someone else in. So either start with those 3 potentially, or if we're going to bring an out and out 7 in a Raffle or a Deves, for example, and I wouldn't be adverse to those going in and keeping Cracknell on the bench.
I mean,
Okay.
I think I'm a bit extra whatever about the position of 7 personally, seeing as that was my position. So I tend to be a little bit more, we need a specialist there. I think when it's against Japan, I think we do need an out and out 7. But I think when it comes to the New Zealand game, I actually think that Man, Cracknell, and Wainwright is a good option. So it's just based on the opposition that we've got. I would
point.
prefer an out and out 7.
Good point.
And I think for me, the thing that I think Reffel has struggled in Wales is his carrying isn't quite good. So then you always have to find someone else who can take up the carrying thing. And he doesn't always get as much purchase over the ball because he hasn't, if there's not someone there who's siding down, which is actually something Alex Mann is very good at. Just chop tackling and just being,
He is.
let's be honest, he's just a prick, especially to the opposition halfbacks, which, do you know what, that is exactly what you want your 6 doing.
Yeah.
And, just staying right on that line of legality, just the right side. Or at least the ref's impression of the right side anyway.
So in the old traditions, we've got to have AN now that at 7. I mean.
I think
that's
for now, yeah.
Do you know what? If we could call up Alex Callender, she would be my option at 7. But unfortunately, that's not an option.
Yeah, I said Alcal would solve so many problems in this Wales side. It's unbelievable, including the extra leadership. Although, although saying that, I mean, I'm quite happy with Derry Lake as the new captain.
Do you think it's going to be Lake, or do you think it's going to be Tom Williams?
I think he was on Wales Today and it was being paraded as Wales captain now. So I think he has just gone. I think.
Call me old school. You need a forward to be a captain. I think you need someone in the boiler house, close to the action.
I mean, ideally you want someone who's there for 80, but it's not the end of the world. I imagine you'll have someone like Beard or Daft Jenkins covering. I mean, Boucher could take over it for that last 20. If you really need, if you really just want to swap captain to captain. So I think that's pack sorted. Should we go on to the pack bench first, and then we'll start talking back lines and say we're trying to keep it thing. So for me, I think keep the same bench front row again.
Yeah.
I mean, is it the game to bring Brody Coughlin in? I don't think so. I think Belcher's I don't think he's actually done anything wrong off the bench. I know there's talk about whether his size, but I do think actually, as a pairing with Nicky Smith, I think they're height-wise and size-wise, they actually do.
Well, leave the same. Leave the bench. Leave the front row makeup on the bench the same.
Yeah, and then I'd say Freddie Thomas for me, I think, did really well when he came on. And so we want to keep cracking. I'm just wondering, do we want to have more of an out-and-out lock in there, or are we happy to just keep Freddie Thomas there, just knowing he's probably going to, hoping that he won't need to cover in at the back row, or do we have that extra 6 forward just in case and put an extra lock in there?
I suppose you could make a case for Freddie Thomas and Rhys Davies who can do a job at 6, can't they? Both of them.
Yeah, and for me at this level, I feel like Rhys Davies would be more of a lock, but
I agree. I agree.
He'd be a very physical set. He'd be a big number 6.
But you could.
I don't know what other people's feelings are on that. Just having a
Ben
Tilper.
What split did we have on the weekend? 5-3.
5-3.
We had 5-3 that one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, go 6-2 then. What backs? What do we have on the bench? A 9.
Oh, we had the
9,
most.
then I'd probably go with. Well, to be honest, you
Sheedy.
probably just put any. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was Jared Evans on the bench.
Jared
wasn't it?
Evans, yeah.
Yeah.
He did all right when
I
he
mean,
came on.
in
Did
theory
right, yeah.
can cover 12, which I think that's when you're looking at maybe a Jacob Beetham.
Yeah.
Probably because he's probably the most versatile of the backs we have left.
Do you know what I
Or
think?
you think,
I think for continuity, I'd keep it the same. Of all the
Yeah.
weeks that we don't need the extra forward, you'd be saying that it would be Japan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
So I'd keep it the same.
Although
So
I
I
I
guess
just think because we did 6-2 against them out in Japan.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
but
I
that was
think
due to the heat, wouldn't it? I reckon we need
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
freshen that up.
in
I
effect we just need no, yeah, it'd be exactly the same because we wouldn't need it. And I was going to make a case possibly for Plumtree or Morse, but maybe their game is next week, week on Saturday. So if Alex Mann is going at 6 and we've got another out and out 7 coming in from
I think it
outside the
stays the
squad,
same.
keep it exactly the same then, yeah.
Yeah, so keep 5-3, just keep it as Thomas and Cracknell.
Yeah.
Unless one of them goes into the starting lineup because we need to bring someone on.
Yeah. And then we just shuffle.
Just shuffle around, but yeah, I'd be keeping all the same.
So to me, all right, and then back line, I'll
Same.
be honest, 9, 10, 12, 13, I'm happy to keep the same.
Yeah.
Do we want to jiggle the back three to try and put a little bit more aerial? Does Zamet, now he's had his running off the bench, does he come in?
Yeah,
Maybe one
I'd
of the backs
start
be
him.
moved to the bench.
I'd start him.
I'd start him. I'd probably take out Blair Murray and move Tom Rogers back there. I know that people have called for Louis Rees-Zammit to go to 15, but I think that's a terrible idea.
He needs to play more.
I mean, also he wasn't a good 15 anyway.
No, but he needs. Well, I can't remember. As long as obviously Rogers usually is pretty good under the high ball. Obviously it wasn't his best thing. What's his kicking game like as a 15?
I'd say he's
Bad.
all
Yeah. I think he
50.
does a
I mean,
job.
when
He's no Lee
Scots were
Halfpenny.
using him as a 15 before they followed Gatlin's idea and switched him and Blair Murray. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's marshaled it quite well. I think he's got a decent boot on him.
Yeah.
And it's not a left foot boot, which we all seem to love. But I mean, you could move Josh Adams to 15. He has played 15 for us before, played a lot there for Worcester. Had a couple of games at Cardiff, but not really something we needed to because actually we've been quite good there. I say, he's probably the most defensively sound.
Yeah, now you've mentioned it, it's maybe not the worst idea.
Yeah, and as I said, everyone talks about Zamet playing against Argentina at 15. But actually, Josh Adams also played 15 that autumn, and I actually think he had the better game of the two as an all-round 15. Yes, Zamet looks really good with ball in hand, but if all we cared about is ball in hand 15, we might as well keep Blair Murray.
Yeah.
If we've got to start Rees-Zammit, which means which I wouldn't be adverse to. I think he's a little bit gun shy at the moment, I would say, in terms of minutes, but I wouldn't be adverse to starting him. I think I'd drop Rogers to the bench personally, and then we've still got the issue at fullback where I think Nick was right that Blair Murray was found out aerially a little bit at international level. So then do you go down the lines of a specialist 15? In which case, if Blair Murray drops out the squad and you bring someone like Winnett in.
Who, despite, again, having similar questions raised against him, I think his aerial game this season has been a lot better. And I think his biggest issue last season was his defence, which again, I think is still not perfect. I think having Halfpenny, the aura of Halfpenny has helped a little bit down that cut at the Elms Park.
Yeah, but I don't think
it's definitely work in progress, but I don't know if it's worth ripping up.
Louis Rees-Zammit has to play on the wing.
Yeah.
Yeah, Louis Rees-Zammit for me has to play on the wing, right? So, and I would just swap in with Rogers. I don't think Rogers did enough on the weekend to be bombed out of the squad completely. And also it does give us that continued level of continuity within the squad. People going in, having plenty of reps during the week. They've had another week together, so that's just a swap like for like. The only one thing then is, do we want to make that change at fullback?
Personally, I wouldn't. Again, for everything you've said, I think just keep it the
I
same.
agree. I
Let's
think I
just-
agree.
Yeah.
And next week, the week after, basically we'll just hide into nothing. The next two games, and after this is a game. This is our cup final. I keep on referring to our cup final. This is the game we have to win. So let's have players who have done the reps, who've played the games again
Yeah.
now, and give them their chance to show that they're worthy of an international shirt.
I agree. So therefore, what we're saying then is the only swap may be Rodgers off and re-Sam it in, and other than that, everything stays the same, including the bench personnel.
Yeah. So basically, we're swapping Zanet and Rodgers on the bench, and that's really
Yeah, the
and then
only
another in for Jack Morgan, and then it's either Cracknell starts or
Yeah.
this other 7 starts. All right,
like maybe have Sheedy on the bench.
I thought Jared did all right when he came on.
yeah.
He did all right, but he doesn't inspire me.
No, defensively though, I don't think Mr. Sheedy's going to inspire as
Yeah,
much as either is he for me.
Again, as much as he's improved, he's still got a way to go. If they're still looking at the 10s kicking that goal,
goal
that's
kicking,
true.
because if, for example, if Dan didn't kick on the weekend, who would have?
Ben.
Okay, Ben Thomas, who's not he's not a bad goal kicker, but he's not the most prolific. And then we're struggling after, it's Jared. If we don't have Jared on the bench, I suppose the point I'm getting at is if you're swapping like for like, he's not the best. His percentages for international rugby aren't the best, like Callum Sheedy. So I just honestly, I'd just keep it the same.
Yeah,
Just
let's
keep
give
it all the same.
him another go in it.
Give him another go with continuity. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think so. I think the overall thing for us is continuity is key. I'm not going to read the full team out because there's so few changes. But if you think you can do better than us, then a certain Mr. Glenn Webb has started up his own site where you can called mystartinglineup.co.uk, where you can put in your own starting 15s and predict scores for the games this weekend. There will be a link in the description below, and I believe producer Lee is going to put out a video explaining it all and how it ties in with rap and everything. Apparently now they are best of buds, so I can't wait to see that video. And that's my shameless plugging done. Most of the other pods have signed off for now, so I'm not gonna go too much into them. I'll say that the Wall Street Journal did record. I had it over on Global Game Line. I think it was just a 50-second clip of Captain Holt from Brooklyn Nine-Nine shouting pain, but we won't go on to that.
And I was mentioned several times for no reason, but we move on.
Yeah, you are now officially Hattie Cam.
Yeah,
For providing match day vibes. Anyway, so that all that's left for me to do is to say thank you, Hattie, thank you, Nick, thank you, Dan, for joining me as ever, and thank you all for listening. Nostar.
Nostar.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.